Hi and welcome, Todd Cahill. You're listening to the It's Not Out There, but It's In You podcast, where on this podcast we talk all about the battles that we all face in our life and really how the battles that we face affect us and how we can think differently about each battle and start redefining its meaning so we can start relinquishing its power over us. See, it's a choice you have to make every day to become the best you. So we want to help you return to the battle at hand, the issues that you face, redefine what their meanings are, and then repeat the cycle over and over in order to keep winning the battle that you face. So stay tuned. So glad you're here. Thanks for listening.
My name is Todd Cahill, and just really honored and grateful and excited about the content that you all are about to hear today. But I definitely want to set this call up for you so that you can definitely have the best experience and that you can walk away from this call feeling really good, like just really, really good. So I don't know if you had a bad day. I don't know if you've had a stressful day. You might have had an incredible day, a phenomenal day. So I don't know where we find you today. But even if you had a great day, phenomenal day, I promise you at the end of this call, it's going to be even better. And if you've had a really miserable day, a bad day, stressful day, I promise you that after this call, it's going to be so much better. Because the guest speaker that I have in this call today is definitely an amazing, not only speaker and leader and influencer, but he's gone through some things that a lot of people have gone through, don't get me wrong, but the way that he's approached the challenge has been remarkable. And being his friend now for 17 years and getting closer really recently, his energy and everything is really incredible. It rubs off, and I want you guys to feel it. I want you guys to hear his story. Before I just introduce him here, I want to just say if you do have access to a desk or if you can sit down, if you can grab a notepad and pen, I think it's just critical because me and Ryan are going to give you a lot of information. And I don't want you to be nervous about that or scared about like information overload. But this is the kind of information that really can make a shift. It actually can help you literally shift whatever that you need to shift in your life. It could possibly help you get in alignment with the things that you've always wanted to achieve. It could really help you better understand why you do the things that you do. Some of the conditioning of your mind, and maybe you've been told to constantly change on the outside. We're going to talk about internal dialogue, what it's doing to you. We definitely want to help create awareness in your life for certain things that you are doing that maybe and potentially are self-sabotaging. We want to help you recognize the patterns that you've always done, and you're trying to get other things that you wish you want, and you're trying to attract great things in your life, but you kind of always fall back into those different patterns. And of course, we want you to attract better things in your life, but instead of settling, if that makes sense. So just like I said, a wealth of information we're going to cover today. But I want to just get out of the way for a little while, for the next really 5 to 10 minutes, and have our guest speaker just share his background, his story, really his perspective and his energy of how, he's overcome some major, major challenges. And I'm not going to take anything away from his story. I'll have him explain who he is, his background, really what happened to him in the past 4 to 5 years, how he reacted towards that. And I want you to, when you're listening to this call, I definitely want you to feel like, okay, what's in this for me? How can I take this information and apply it to my life and make it, beneficial for me? That's how I want you to think, because again, getting off this call, I want you to really feel it. I want you to feel good. I want you to feel alive. I want you to forget, like this call, after this call, you're going to probably forget about all your challenges and problems that maybe led you into the beginning of this call. So I'm going to introduce you guys to the amazing Ryan Luelf. Ryan, are you on the call?
I am, Todd. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, man, and thanks so much for being on. And I'm just going to give you the call here.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Todd. I'm really appreciative of everything you shared about our connection and how just close our friendship's been, lately, with just the amount of time that we've really gotten to spend together and talking and just kind of diving into the depths of who you are and who I am. And for those of you that may not know me, again, my name's Ryan Luelf. I'm 39 years old. My wife, Caroline, and I are high school sweethearts. We just celebrated in February this year 19 years of marriage. and we actually have been together for a little over 23 years. And we have 3 children. My oldest son, Addison, is 13. My daughter, Atlanta, is 9. And my younger son, Arthur, is 7. And just to kind of give you a quick example, I think that just kind of illustrates the shift that's happened in me. And I'll kind of walk you through the last few years and just kind of my story. But just before I got on this call, I had been doing business stuff today and had been out away from my family. And I got home, and just for the last 30 minutes, my wife Caroline and I had just come into our room, and we were actually just laying on the bed next to each other, and we were just sharing time, just catching up and talking. And we had some Memorial Day plans for this weekend, and we're having to shift those because we're in Oklahoma, and there's been a lot of rain and actually flooding so much that the RV park that we were going to be going to with our RV and meeting up with my parents and their RV and my brother, it closed down. And so, that's just life. Like, that's part of it. And I feel so fortunate to be at a place where just taking 20 or 30 minutes to actually really connect and to hear how my wife's day was and her share how we're going to have to adjust this weekend, and then me. And I think sometimes we think that, living a really great life are these big, giant things. And I wonder if it's actually more of these little small things. So I say all that to say that, my life's been an interesting journey just like yours. 3.5 years ago at age 35, I got some incredible news. I found out that I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer. And I was essentially handed a death sentence. I was told by, my oncologist and the cancer industry and the medical arena and field that there was no cure for my type of cancer, and that this cancer was going to take my life. And that could potentially, on the kind of the best case scenario, be maybe as long as 10 years. But I'd have to be doing treatments all throughout that time. And, they couldn't really speak to what kind of quality of life I would have. And that all the way down to worst case scenario, the chemotherapy could kill me within 2 weeks. And so it got scary pretty fast. Within 2 months of my diagnosis, I'd lost 50 pounds. I had fluid building up in my lungs and in my abdomen, and it was a scary time. At that time, my wife and I had been married 15 years. All 3 of our children were under 10, and my future didn't look real great. And at that point, I'd had 0 medical history. I was an active adult. I played tennis. I coached my children, and I just wasn't sure what to do. Now, interesting enough, with the internet and documentaries and stuff, I quickly got introduced to other alternative, things that people had shared and talked about that was outside of just, conventional medicine. And I think what it just boiled down to was, I remember when the oncologist kind of laid out those options, and I just remember thinking internally, like, well, those aren't going to work for me, because even if I live 10 years, 10 plus 5, because my daughter was 5 at the time, like, that only makes her 15. Like, I'm not going to be able to walk her down the aisle. And I can't explain necessarily where this came from within me, but I just knew right then that I wanted to live. And I had no idea. I was completely terrified of how I was going to make that happen. Interesting enough, too, just to give you a quick background on where I was at kind of economically, I'd been an entrepreneur my whole life, had definitely had quite a bit of success, and, made a couple $1 million in my 20s. But about a year before my diagnosis, I actually had a total business loss. And at the time I got diagnosed, my wife and 3 kids and I were actually living with family at the time, just trying to rebound and recover from our losing everything in business. And so I didn't really have any funds at all. And since conventional medicine pretty much told me there wasn't a whole lot of hope, I began exploring any other avenues that might be things I could try or I could do so that I could find a way to heal myself and get better. I wanted to be here to watch my kids grow up. I really, really enjoy my wife. I wasn't ready to leave the planet. And so this desire, this, will, this knowing. That's all I can tell you. I told Todd so many times, I cannot tell you how often I would just look my wife in the eye, and many times I had tears flowing down my face, and I'd say, I don't know what to do next. I don't know exactly how long this is going to take or what the path looks like, but I just would look at her and say, but I just know that we're going to find a way. I just know I'm not going to die. I know it. And she'd say, well, how do you know? And I'd say, I don't know. I just know. And now I look back and I realize that I think what I had done is I had decided that I was going to be more in alignment with God and source and spirit and my inner being than I was with the opinions and the beliefs and the thoughts of every other human around me. And I just started being true to myself. I really believe this is what led me to finding this path to healing, is I started getting in tune with that gut instinct. And I started having more faith and trust in that than I did in my doctor's opinion or even what my wife was telling me, because sometimes her opinion was actually kind of baked in her own fears and insecurities, which are perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, my God, I was her best friend. I'm her husband. I've been the major breadwinner. It's totally understandable why she would have had that. But I cannot tell you how often I was able somehow to make the decision on what treatments to pursue. I got an idea on how I could raise money so I could pay for some of the alternative things. And I just followed that gut instinct more times than not. And my path had a lot of ups and downs and a lot of curves. And Todd knows from following my journey, I pretty much documented it all online. I mean, he thought I was really a goner several times, because if you saw the pictures and if you saw me on some of the videos I made, and if you had experienced, I mean, we went to Mexico, we went to the Philippines, we tried one thing where we spent $45,000 and actually I got worse. It was a crazy journey. There was no straight line about it, but I just kept coming back to this sense on the inside that I was going to find a way. And so 14 months after my original diagnosis, I didn't do chemo during this first adventure with cancer. I was cancer free. And so it happened just as I had been imagining it in my mind. And of course, on another call and in another setting, of course, I could go into a lot more details and share moments along the way that could be very helpful to you all. But I'm just giving you kind of an overview. And so then I had a gut instinct that we needed to sell our house in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We should buy an RV and we should travel around the U.S. for a year and just go live life and really create that bond with our children and just take time with the family. So over the next 6 months in early 2017, we did that. And we got everything in place and we left in our new RV at the end of June in the summer of 2017. And crazy enough, 2 weeks later, I found out I had stage 4 cancer all over again. And I got to tell you guys, it was such a blow. Like, it actually felt like an even heavier, a stronger blow than my original diagnosis. It was a blow to my ego because I felt like I had been willing to take chances, take risk, and do all the things that most people are afraid to do or unwilling to do in order to see if it would work and they could heal themselves. I felt like I had done all of those, and I couldn't believe it. Like, there's no way I could get cancer again. But once I got over my ego after a few days, I surrendered, I quieted my own mind, and I just remember just talking to Source, God, Spirit, my inner being, and just saying, okay, there's obviously more for me to learn. What is the message that cancer has for me this time? And it took me on a whole nother path. It took me deeper into my inner terrain and deconstructing the beliefs that I had been handed through my religious upbringing, deconstructing the beliefs that had been handed to me through the school systems and through society, through even my own parents. taught me and showed me how to honor my own feelings above all other things. And it showed me that if I got to that alignment, if I got into that space inside where I had inner peace, my body would respond. It was as if I went from being in a place of dis-ease, where there was all this uneasiness, to actually finding that place within where I was at ease. And the more I practiced and lived at ease, the more my body began to heal. And 5 months later, I was completely cancer-free again. That was a year and a half ago, and I've been thriving ever since. To give you kind of an idea, I just recently hiked with my wife on a 2-day overnight hike, 23 miles, carrying a 33-pound backpack. No problem at all. I play basketball with my son. I have more muscle mass than I've ever had. I don't see any doctors. I don't see any oncologists. I'm not on any prescription drugs. I don't go in for any exams because I just keep having this sense that as long as I'm in tune with my inner being, with God, with Source, with Spirit, and I follow that voice above all the opinions and all the noise that comes through other people outside of myself, that will be the path that will be of least resistance. That will be the path where I will enjoy well-being for a really, really long time. And I'm still learning, and I definitely have moments or even days or pockets of time where I get sucked back in and I stop practicing getting quiet. Maybe I don't meditate for a while. And the next thing you know, I start making decisions that don't sit well with me, and I start having those feelings of uneasiness again. I don't panic, though. That's the neat thing. I don't have to fear them. I can just recognize that I've gotten away from being in alignment with myself. And I'm so grateful for these 2 adventures with cancer. What a gift it has been for me to bring me back to that place of awareness where if I will just recognize as soon as I start having uneasiness, as soon as I don't feel good on the inside, I don't have to panic. There's no fear. I don't have to get mad at myself. I don't have to think there's anything wrong with me. I just have to recognize that I've now started handing my power over again, and I've started looking outside of myself for healing, well-being, satisfaction, a joy-filled life, and all the things that I long for deep within. So I just really want to encourage you to allow your awareness to be heightened of how you truly feel on the inside. And I would just invite you into a space to start making the connection that everything in your life has been attracted by you and in you and through you based on that emotional feeling or that vibration that you were practicing. So all the things that you're unsatisfied with or all the things that are not what you want, instead of being upset about that, just recognize the source of how that came about. And the more you start practicing, because this all takes time. The only reason I probably have really been able to advance as far as I have in my own evolution and transformation is because my runway was pretty short 3.5 years ago. I mean, I had to start figuring this stuff out or I was going to be leaving the planet. And I was going to leave 3 beautiful children without a dad and a beautiful wife in her 30s without a husband. And it motivated me to no end to figure out what I needed to change on the inside in order for my outside to match. And that's been quite a journey and will continue to be because you never arrive. It's always a learning experience and it's always a practice. But I feel immense gratitude, honestly, to share anything that could be valuable and helpful to another person. And I hope that what they walk away with is this sense that they're enough and that their connection with their inner being or with God, Source, Spirit, that has always been within them, that's where you find alignment. And that's how you carve out the path for the life that you truly want to live. So it's really great to be on here with you, Todd, and I appreciate you letting me share for a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into this because obviously I'm taking notes when you are speaking. And of course, we've been talking a lot over the past couple of weeks, but I want to dive into being practical, because not everyone on this call, hopefully no one has stage 4 cancer. I do love that you called it a blessing, and I understand the perspective there for sure. But I think like gratefulness and gratitude, they're so easy when things are going so great in your life. It's so easy to be like, oh, wow, I'm making money. I'm so grateful. Oh, me and my wife are doing great. I'm grateful. There's things that happening that are just going so well. It's so joyous. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what we all want. And that's what we all strive for. It's just, but I don't think a lot of people look at the pain. So I want to shift into pain first. And then I want to also dive into knowing versus hoping. So let's dive into the pain. So a lot of times people don't know and don't understand the concept of blessing the pain. Because like I'm going through major pain. It could be stage 4 cancer. It could be cancer. It could be a divorce. It could be a separation. It could be, a legal issue. It could be a nervousness. It could be an uneasiness at your job. Maybe you're fired. I know I've talked to people that really almost crumble or do crumble when they lose their job. They think they're just going to go broke. Like tomorrow, they're going to be homeless in the next 5 hours. That's something that people don't necessarily right away with the conditioning of their mind say, I'm grateful. Like I just got fired today. This opens up a whole different world for me. Or, I'm separated from my husband or wife. How can I look at this in a different perspective and maybe get some awareness of why? Because like attracts like, and you can also attract negative things too. But here's why I say bless the pain, because the pain can teach you a invaluable lesson. It can teach you such an important lesson, because even God himself is not interested in rekindling your marriage. God himself is not interested in helping you financially. God himself is not interested in putting outside circumstances inside your life to make it better. You know what God, source, divine is interested in? You getting better. Getting better on the inside. Growth. And that's what people need to understand. The healing starts inside, and that's the business that God is in. Source, divine, whatever you call it.
Wow. I love that, Todd.
Yeah. So pain is the portal of transformation. And Ryan, I'm gonna ask you a question here, but I do want to set this up. I've been a coach now for 17 years, and there's so many people, Ryan, that tell me they want success. They want to be successful. They want to be authors, speakers. They want to be like me in certain cases. Like, man, you have a beautiful family, or you're so good at this, and man, it would be great to be successful. It'd be great to make 6 figures doing what you love or more. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Are you willing to go through the pain, or are you in pain so much now that you're actually willing to let go? And the answer to 99% of those people is no. They are not in enough pain of a 2-week to 3-month death sentence like you went through. And then here's you. Now I want to shift to you now. You get this 2-week to 3-month death sentence. You've been going, making money, entrepreneur, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And all of a sudden, you're not the same Ryan you were 3.5 years ago that you were then, that you are now. So you're diagnosed 2 weeks to 3 months to live, which is everyone's number one fear on this call. And how did you use that pain and transform your life forever? That's what I want to know practically.
Well, I think the pain just causes all these frivolous things that we keep telling ourselves we have to do, or they're so important, they just melt away. Like, let's say, for an example, you're in a really tough financial spot, and you keep telling the story of, I gotta pay all these bills. I gotta keep up with my mortgage. I gotta make my car payments. I gotta pay my child support. I gotta, I gotta make sure my credit score stays up. Do you think that if that had been my exact scenario, that when they told me my diagnosis, do you think I would have been that worried or concerned about all that money stuff in that moment? So we make things more important than they actually are. It doesn't mean that we're saying be irresponsible or not do the adult thing, but we pinch ourselves off from possibilities. So I believe that the role that pain plays is pain actually causes us to get laser focused on what actually really matters. and it melts away the stories that we've made up and that we tell ourselves over and over and over again that keeps us doing things that actually aren't of the highest priority, aren't of our best interest, and don't actually move us in the direction that we want to go. We actually just keep repeating the same old stuff, which just keeps attracting the same old problems over and over and over again. That was the story of my life for 15 years as an adult prior to cancer. So what pain did is pain got me super hyper focused on one thing. How do I feel on the inside? And if I don't like how I feel, then I need to go within and ask Source, ask God, how do I feel better? How do I feel better on the inside? And what I realized is no amount of fixing my outside so-called problems financially was actually going to completely make me feel better on the inside. I had to learn how to feel better in the middle of working through changing my outside conditions, which may be with money, it may be with issues with my life partner or spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. It may be a legal situation. Like, how much better would all of us handle things that are tough to deal with if we actually first got in alignment and learned how to have peace in the middle of the storm and then dealt with the storm? But what I was doing prior to cancer, Todd, is I was trying to fix all the storms from a place of uneasiness, from a place of fear, insecurity, panic. I wasn't really paying attention to my feelings. And when that pain of that diagnosis came, it caused me to have to be so laser focused that I quit trying to do that. And I had to figure out how to learn to be okay on the inside. And then when I learned to be okay on the inside, now I could think clearly. And then the outside things, I started doing stuff that actually helped me change those circumstances as well.
Well, it's amazing. And you know, when everyone's listening to this call, I'm trying to think of like practical ways that they can start applying the law of attraction. So I want to shift with the law of attraction a little bit, Ryan. And I know you've had mentors, and you definitely feel free to share some of the work that you really look up to, some of the people that you listen to, some maybe of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, just to give reference to everyone that's listening on this call and also on the replay and all that good stuff there. That really, you know, guiding, you know, I think a lot of people are looking for someone or something to guide them, you know, like maybe it's a coach, maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's someone from afar on YouTube, maybe it's reading a special book, and here I am, an author of You versus You, etc. And absolutely, that's all good. That's all incredible. It's there for you. That's why we're doing this call, to be a guidance for people. But how can somebody, and how can you, I mean, how did you? This is what I'm interested in. I think everyone, this is like $1 million question here. How did you realize with the self-awareness that you could guide your own self? Not that you're just saying, you know, it's me and me alone. And, you know, of course, I know that you're in alignment with God and Source and all that great stuff. But
this is a great question.
Just how do you guide yourself on a, oh, no problem. How do you guide yourself on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, well, let's use a common thing, Todd, because you just sparked a really neat answer. So, you know, one of the things that a lot of people talk about is if you're going to heal something that you're dealing with physically, a lot of people believe that your diet or the foods that you eat are the key to that. Okay. So, I mean, obviously in all my research and in trying to figure out how to heal myself, you can imagine I got kind of enthralled in, well, what's the best diet and which foods are right to eat. And I just remember about 4 or 5 months into my journey, Todd, I was in over 100 different private Facebook groups that had something to do about diet, food, and food is medicine and healing and all of that. And Todd, one day I was so frustrated, and I came to my wife, Caroline, and I said, I am in a food funk. I feel like I can't even eat anything, that there is nothing on the planet that is actually safe for me to eat or that will help me heal. I feel like I need to be like a breatharian, and never eat again. And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, these people say that the key to healing is you got to eat avocados. And this group over here says avocados are death. If you eat avocados, you're going to be heading straight to your grave. And then these people over here, say that you shouldn't even be thinking about avocado. I mean, I could not believe how many contradictions there were on what was the secret diet. And then I started researching because I started having this awareness like, what if there isn't a secret diet, but I'm being sucked in by every one of these other humans to believe that there is? Did you know that there are 15,000 recognized different diets that exist in the world today in 2019? So doesn't that just make you laugh? Yeah. So the next time that you see somebody telling you that they've found the secret to health and wellness and longevity, and it's in this magical diet they've come up with, have the awareness that this time you're not going to get sucked into thinking that the answer is outside of yourself, and you're not going to get sucked into thinking that it's diet. No, you know what it is? It's source. It's inner being. It's that I can have enough trust that if I start eating a certain way and I'm not liking how that food's making me feel physically, then that would be the only indication I would need that I might want to try eating some different things. In other words, the best diet for you to be on is a lifetime journey of exploring, trial and error, and getting in tune with your own body, and then you figuring out when is the best times to eat, what kinds of foods are best for you, how do you feel when you eat this way, what's it like if you maybe do a little intermittent fasting, or what's it like if you don't eat breakfast. Like, you have to explore it, but you have to be the one to do that. I can't be in your body. How is my diet that but what I started realizing, Todd, is that too often people are just telling you what's worked for them. And that's beautiful. And that doesn't mean we can't explore those possibilities. And maybe it does kind of in the same way work for us. But more importantly, it's not what that other person is telling us is the answer for us. More importantly, it's about us being in tune with us and being honest enough. Like, I just give one quick practical example. If I eat pretty much 100% plant-based lifestyle, for me, and I'm not trying to sound gross or anything, I notice that I usually have 1 to 2 bowel movements every single day. And you don't really have to be that smart or go to college for health or be a nutritionist to know if you're eliminating once or twice a day, like that's, you don't have to be that. Like, my kids know that they just feel better. Your stomach's flatter. You're not carrying around as much. I mean, like, you're getting that, your body's processing and grabbing onto the nutrients that it needs, and it's not. If I veer way off and I just eat anything and everything, or I start adding in a bunch of meat and stuff, whatever. This is just for me, by the way. I'm not telling anyone else how to do this. I noticed a while back that I didn't really eat vegan for a few days, and I was like, wow, I just went 2 days and I didn't go number 2. Like, I didn't pass. And then I started kind of realizing, like, oh, I feel like I'm kind of carrying a little bit more around in my stomach, and I just didn't quite feel it, the lightness. Okay, well, like, that's what I'm talking about in being your own guide, is just being present enough with yourself to actually get in tune with that kind of stuff, and then trusting that those are all the little indicators that help you carve out the path to your greatest health and your greatest well-being. What if that was the secret instead of the next book, the next course, the next this, the next that? Now, don't get me wrong. I have benefited from courses and books and things, and I'm in that business myself. But you know which ones I've benefited from the most? The ones that weren't telling me what to do or what to think, but were guiding me to learn how to do that on my own. Those are the people that have brought about the most transformation, because they showed me how that transformed their life, and they passed that along, and then I started learning how to do it in my own life.
Yeah, I love that, Ryan. And I want to hit a little bit more on this and then kind of move on to a few other things. But like, okay, you're the guide. You're guiding yourself through self-awareness, and obviously used a good example of something very practical that you can, understand yourself, like what works well, what doesn't work well for you, and not what someone else is telling you. But I think, Ryan, from my perspective and looking out, at other people that I know, family members, close loved ones, and also just people I've coached, people on Facebook, I think the biggest challenge that people have, I think, is awareness. And I've always heard it said that the first responsibility of any person or a leader, for instance, in case you want to be a leader of yourself first and leader of others later, is you have to define your reality. And there's this ego, right? So we have an ego, and I've heard it said, edging God out, whatever you want to call it. But this ego, and I've heard even people say, well, that's my nationality, or this is why I do this, because my mom is like this, or my dad is like this. So, I'm just mad because I'm mad, or I'm just angry because I'm angry, or I'm not forgiving because I don't trust people. So because this person hurt me or that person hurt me. So I think for all of this to work, imagine someone getting stage 4 cancer and being diagnosed, and they're like, yeah, that's a lie. That's not true. Thanks, doctor. I've seen the evidence, but no, that's not true. So that's not knowing versus hoping. That's just stupidity. So I think there needs to be an awareness when someone finally says, okay, why am I going through this relationship problem? Is it always that other person's fault? Let me really think about that, because I think also it's not just relationships. It could be finances, and there's other outside sources, Ryan, that do occur. It's not like we are everything. Yes, someone might hit you in the road. That's totally not your fault, but most things you're causing too. So I think when someone comes to that realization and they have a hard look, like that's why a lot of people are like, oh, I'll try meditation. I always want to just like shake my head and be like, you're going to try meditate. Like, no. That's not what you want to do. Meditation needs to be everything. That's the only way you're going to calm your brainwaves on a scientific level and actually be in the moment and literally just try to discover why things are happening. Why aren't things going your way? Why is this in your relationship happening? Is it really that person's fault? Really? 100% of it? Probably not. So when someone has that awareness of like, I should have changed this, that's the beautiful part of living. When you come to that realization that you don't blame anymore and you take full responsibility of what you personally can change, and instead of quitting or running away or hiding or being I think courage today is not Superman. Courage today is somebody that says, I really messed up. I totally screwed up. Yeah. I messed up so bad. And even on a vulnerability, social media platform, that's courageous. Yeah. It's unbelievable. And it's not just, I've seen also people take it to the next level, and it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, they're trying to get attention.
Well, we're not talking about just being in a gripe session for the rest of your life. We're just simply talking about someone being vulnerable about the awareness of maybe this pattern that they finally realize they just keep doing to themselves, or they've been in, or just an area that they've been self-sabotaging in. But you can always tell the difference between someone who's being vulnerable and then is looking for how they can shift inwardly to then start a new pattern versus someone who's being vulnerable and just looking for sympathy and just wanting to remain a victim. I think there's an obvious difference, especially energetically.
Well, Ryan, so here's the thing though. Here's the kicker. Okay, so let's say everyone on this call, everyone that's listening to this says, you know what, I agree with Todd and I agree with Ryan. I'm not doing a great job in my finances. I'm not doing a great job in my marriage. And then they start identifying it, right? Because that's the first responsibility of us as human beings, is to define our reality. So in order to get that vision that you want, you have to say, this is where my reality is now. But here's the kicker, Ryan, and this is what I'm still learning, to be honest with you, myself. And this is the goal, I think, for me personally, is I don't want to hope that I'm going to change. I don't want to hope that I'm going to be able to shift that. I don't want to hope that I'm going to be a better husband. I don't want to hope anymore that I could be a better father. I want to know. So when it came to your cancer, you said that you knew you're going to be healed. So how can we practice that on a day-to-day basis of just knowing that whatever that we're aware of, we're conscious, aware and conscious of our now decisions and choices. We're still going to make mistakes, but we're going to make a lot less mistakes. But we're going to know everything is going to be okay because we are enough. So walk us through your perspective of when you say, I know versus I hope.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the most powerful things I've ever learned and discovered, because I think the reason why it's hard to shift from people, saying, well, I hope this works out, to I know it's going to work out, is because knowing comes with no explanation. So in other words, there were a lot of human beings asking me what I thought was going to happen with my cancer journey. I'd just say, well, I just know I'm going to be well. And then they'd say, well, when are you going to be well? I don't know. I just know. Well, how do you think you're going to do it? I don't know. I just know. Well, but I thought your blood results were worse this time. Yeah, but I just know I'm gonna find a way. I know, but how are you going to pay for it all? I don't know, but I just know I'm going to get better. Do you see how that's a really challenging way to live? Because those answers don't suffice to our spouse sometimes, our family members, our friends, that those answers don't suffice to the oncologist, to the doctor. So you talk about looking like a weirdo in society, being a person who knows because you have decided to quiet your own mind and get in alignment with God, source, spirit, that deeper non-physical part of yourself. All of a sudden, like, you don't even really know what to say to anybody else, because how are most human beings living? They're constantly asking for evidence, and then they'll decide that they know. And knowing comes first, not the evidence. I didn't have all the evidence said I'm going to die. All the evidence said there is no way that you could know that you're going to live. That's what all the physical, tangible, see, touch, feel, and smell evidence, that's all it was showcasing. And yet, when I got quiet, and when it was just me and God, me and self, me and, spirit, source, the divine, pure positive energy, again, whatever it is, I don't try to argue with people on how they label, their understanding of spirituality, because nobody knows exactly how to, that you can't describe the indescribable, in other words. But I just knew. I couldn't explain it. I didn't have any evidence to prove it, but I just knew. And you can only get in that space if you start learning a practice of going within, of getting quiet, of having time alone, of shutting off your phone, of unplugging from the internet, of learning how to get your mind to not constantly try to tell you everything it's been conditioned to tell you. The ego is the conditioned mind, and most conditioning comes through other human beings who are not in alignment with their own inner being, and yet they seem to have all this great advice for you. And then we're not in alignment, and so we're looking for that validation, and we start believing their opinions. And if I had let myself do that, I wouldn't be on this call tonight. I'd be dead. That's the truth. And some of us 100%. Are dead in our relationships. Some of us are dead in the area of money. And the reason is because we keep looking outside of ourselves for the secret on how to have the kind of relationship we really want and how to have a money situation that we really want. And the answer has always been within. And until we learn how to go within and get that real wisdom and shut out all the other noise, will essentially, the universe will just keep bringing us the same old results that we haven't wanted for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. And it'll never force us to change or shift or transform, but the invitation to go within always exists.
And, you have human potential. If you really dive into human potential, I mean, we put men on the moon. There's a whole galaxy. The Earth is on its axis, 365 days a year, rotating. The earth in itself has 8 billion people. And, sometimes we can feel really, really small, helpless. Sometimes people look at, $1,000 like it's everything. Some people look at $1 million like it's nothing. There's tons of wealth in this world. There's tons of poverty in this world. There's just so much going on, right? And then you take our brains. It's like so many things are going on in our brains, in our subconscious and conscious level and stuff. But what you're speaking of is almost like the pause of all of that. And it's almost like you just stop and you really make that shift to understand who you really are. And it's not a narcissistic thing. It's not way more than you should confidence-wise, but it's a confidence that's still. And God even says, be still for know that I am God.
Yeah. So I was literally getting ready. You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was literally getting ready to say that verse once you stopped and paused for a minute.
Yeah, and I shouldn't quote scripture because I don't read it enough, but I definitely know some of the.
But it's okay though. It resonates with you because it doesn't matter whether anybody got brought up learning about that particular book and all of that. There is so much truth just in all facets of life. And Todd, I was going to say that same scripture, be still and know that I am God. And then what if you slowly back it down? What if then the next line you back it down a little bit and it says, be still and know. And then the next one is be still. And then the next one is be. Mm-hmm. So what if step 1 is be? Step 2 is be still. And when you're being still, you'll know. And when you know, you'll be in alignment with God, Source, Spirit, the divine.
I love it. So wrapping up, Ryan, let's hit on a couple more things, then we can wrap up, and then we'll just share a quick announcement here before we wrap up. So we talked about creating awareness, but what we haven't talked about yet is I'm looking at my notes, and we talked about conditioning of the mind, but recognizing the patterns that you have always done. So I love the story of the caterpillar that I think a lot of courses, books, and this is why for me, my book, You versus You, I didn't want it to be another personal development book. I want it to be a transformational book. I didn't want to help people become better caterpillars. I wanted people to go from the caterpillar to the yuckiness of the growth and the immersion of that into a butterfly where they can transcend, they can transform. But it is difficult for a lot of people to not recognize the patterns that they've always done. And they maybe have had issues since they're 10 years old, 11 years old. People have been sexually abused, physically abused, verbally abused, emotionally abused. Maybe they're little girls, maybe little boys. They think that love is like that. That's definitely something that I have had done to me. So it's just like, what is love and what is this and what do I need and all this stuff. So I constantly go into these patterns, but we have to recognize them. But I love this. You attract what you settle for. So how can we not settle for the same things that we are attracting on a very low vibration? How can we raise our vibrations higher and higher and higher and higher? So for instance, when you're driving in your car and you used to get really angry when somebody cut you off, or when someone's in front of you and it's a stoplight and they're not moving because they're on their phone, and the old you would have, come on, you son of a gun, right? You might use some swear words there. But now that you've raised your vibrations, even for the small things, you're treating people differently. You're filled with love. You're filled with unconditional love and forgiveness. Your vibration, your energy is at a 10. So even when people try to hurt you, or even when people say nasty things to you, especially when you're trying to do big things in your life, you might have a social media person that's mean. I know that I've had it. You certainly have had people that really try to rip you apart on social media. But it doesn't matter. And so talk a little bit about that and kind of wrapping up this call, because that's just a practical thing, like treating people better and recognizing patterns that you are sometimes kind of a jerk. I've been a jerk a lot of times in my life. I've thought of myself first a lot of times instead of others. So I'm making that shift to really put others first, but also at the same time loving myself finally first and foremost, is putting me first.
Well, Todd, I think the root at what you're talking about there, whether it's the small thing like getting, riled up and all been out of shape because of somebody, cutting you off in traffic, to maybe a larger thing like, always chasing money. I think the root of it that I'm discovering in my life, and interesting enough, just the 30 minutes that my wife and I were sharing together before I got on the call, this kind of seemed to be the thing that was coming up for us, is it's still rooted in, I keep thinking that something outside of myself is going to be the answer to me feeling good on the inside. So at the root of why I react the way I do is I'm basically saying to the person that cut me off in traffic, you just caused me problems. If you hadn't cut me off, I wouldn't have this negative emotion. Think about that. That's really what we're doing. We're saying that if I could just have the universe be perfectly the way I want it, then I could be good on the inside. And maybe the awakening we're all really after is to say, I just got to decide to be in alignment on the inside, and then the world will be perfect. So I would say for me, the pattern that I continue to notice is where I say yes to stuff because I'm chasing dollar signs, but it's actually not in alignment with, if I could only do one thing and one thing only. I'm amazed at how many times I'm saying yes to stuff that aren't in alignment with that one thing I know I really want to do. And what I've had to finally just continue to remind myself is you're chasing money. And the reason you're chasing money, Ryan, is that on many levels, you still believe that it's money, which is a thing outside of yourself. Like, that's the answer to your well-being, your joy-filled life, success, all these things that you want to have a sense of feeling on the inside. I have to own that I still have a pattern of thinking that money represents that. And what's so funny about that, Todd, is I drive an $80,000 truck. I've had a $200,000 RV. I've made $30,000 in a month. I've made millions of dollars. I've traveled all over the U.S. I've been on some of the most exotic vacations in the world. And you know what's amazing is that when people ask me about what it was like these last 2 years to basically be living in an RV, and they ask me, what's the first thing that pops out and stands out that was the most fun that you had? And I always answer with Riggins, Idaho. And they're like, Riggins, Idaho? I've never even heard it. I'm like, don't worry, neither had I. The population sign outside the town is 410 people. And they say, why Riggins, Idaho? And I say, well, my cell phone didn't work, so I was just in nature. We stayed at a little RV park that I think was $10 a night. There was only 15 spots, and it backed up to the Little Salmon River. And there was a place that you could walk just a little bit down to the one end of the RV park. We aired up our tubes, and me and my wife and 3 kids put it in the river, and we would float down to just a little bit past the RV park on the other end of it, which probably wasn't more than 500 yards. And then we'd get out and we'd go do it again. And for a week, we went camping and fishing and floating and rafting. And you know what's amazing? That's the number one thing my kids talk about too. And I probably didn't need more than $150 to experience that week with my family. A very, very minimal amount. We never ate out one time over 7 days. And I'm just laughing at myself. I'm like, wasn't that interesting, Ryan? You keep chasing dollars, and yet you keep saying that your best moment in the last 2 years was probably a week where you had access and spent the fewest dollars. And I would call that wanting what you don't want. I'd call that split energy. And I think that's where anxiety comes from, and stress, and that inner turmoil that is a big factor and trigger to why we have so much dis-ease being diagnosed all over the world today.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful, beautiful story. And it's just been so great to watch your transformation on Facebook. And if you're not following Ryan D. Luelf, you should definitely follow Ryan D. Luelf, Luelf, his last name, on Instagram and Facebook, and even scroll in the past couple of years if you have some time and just, notice the before and after of who he is now and that journey. Well, Ryan, I really appreciate this. We are definitely not done as far as the future. We have a lot of cool things planned, but I wanted to end the call here with a couple of cool, okay, now what? So if you're anything like me, you long for this kind of knowledge, and it's just so hard to be, okay, what book can I get this from? Or, and sometimes in the personal development world, you like maybe a certain woman or a couple of great women and a couple of great men, but they're kind of like contradictory in what they're saying, and you're just like, I don't even know what to think. So what we would like to do is share this with you. Between now and midnight Pacific, my course, You versus You, the 12 Ways to Kick Your Own Ass and Win, which is really in alignment with everything that we're talking about, is out. So it's actually going to be officially out Monday night of this coming week, but we're going to give you, anyone that listened to this call, a $20 discount. So instead of being $97, you can get it for $77 tonight and tonight only. You're also going to receive a 30-minute discovery call with myself for free. So what I'd like to do is set that up where you can get on the calendar coming this week. So it's going to start Tuesday, because obviously this is a weekend coming, a holiday weekend. But I want to talk to you one-on-one. Of course, it's absolutely no charge. Get the course tonight for $77. I literally, through video form, walk you through the 12 major battles that you're going to face inside of you. And if you haven't got my book, you can do that too on youversubook.com. Again, that's www.youversubook.com. And you just have to pay for shipping. You can also get it on Amazon if you prefer. But that would be I think a great way for you to really understand a little bit more in a video where you can fast forward, rewind, take notes, and a lot of the content are going to be it's going to be on there. That's going to be delivered to you on Monday, but you can get it now for $20 before I charge $97. $97 is still a great price, and $77 is even better. So I want to give you that discount. But I think really incredibly as important, I would love to meet with you over the phone for 30 minutes starting early next week. And I want to see where you're at. I want to discover how can you take this information and make it practical in your own life. Not something like a wishful thinking or, I hope this works, but how can we help you know? And that's what I'm here for. That's my passion. That's what Ryan has helped me a lot in, and I've helped him in certain ways. And I think, once two minds are gathered together, you create a third brain. So I didn't want to just say, hey, get this course and you're good to go. I want to also be there for you in that process, especially in the beginning, to walk you through it, answer any questions that you might have, and really help you take the rest of this year to that next level that you really want, that you're really attracting, that you want to attract, and that's what we're here for. So I do appreciate you, Ryan. I mean, obviously, I don't want to go too long. We've been here an hour, but of course I can go for many, many more hours. But this is the kind of information that can transform somebody. And I know people are going through a lot, Ryan. I get inboxes every day. I got an inbox from a woman, her daughter died today. I got an inbox today from a woman who, found out her son was diagnosed with this disease and, this medication this person's on. And, I literally just today alone. So I know people are hurting. People are suffering out there. And your goal, my goal, I think, is to really help, not just show them how not to suffer anymore, because that's really too much of a responsibility for any one person or two people. But I think we both can agree, Ryan, that we want to guide people to become their own guides, to help themselves heal from the inside out. Would you agree, Ryan?
Yes, absolutely.
We're here to help that, and you can get the course today and have that ready to go on Monday. You're going to get many videos, and you're going to go through the whole book in video form and also have the book there. And then, of course, that 30-minute free discovery call where me and you can just meet one-on-one, and you can tell me all about your life. You can tell me, okay, this is going on, and hopefully that can discover some things and create awareness for you next week where you can realize, wow, okay, now that I've talked to you, Todd, I can see some things that I need to really change and focus on. And that's what I'm here for, to help you do that. So that's my heart. That's my passion. And Ryan, hey, it's been amazing for you to be here on this phone call today. Any last words that you want to share before we wrap up this call?
Just see if you can find something to feel gratitude about tonight. I'm in Oklahoma, and it's about 90 degrees today, but for some reason there was this really cool breeze all day, and I just took like 3 different times throughout my day, I just took just a few seconds and just tuned in just to that breeze, and I felt such a sense of gratitude. It was a way to just kind of disconnect from being lost in my thoughts or getting caught up in that, ego part of being and that conditioning that tends to govern my life. And I don't know, I felt, put a smile on my face. And so I would just start with a little stuff. Is there any little thing throughout your day that you could shift and tune into that might just bring you a moment of peace or a sense of awe and wonder, and just make you feel grateful that you get to be human, that you get to be alive? And the more you practice that, the more momentum you build. I think your life just will get greater and greater and greater and greater. So,
love it. Well, hey, we appreciate all of you that are listening in, and hopefully this call added a tremendous amount of value. And let us know. We love feedback, not because of our ego, and not that we need to hear, you guys did a great job, but I love hearing, well, how did our message help you realize some things? So let me and Ryan know. Let him know on Instagram or Facebook. Let me know on Instagram or Facebook. And we just love to, add value as much as you can. And like I said, we know people are hurting out there, but I think a lot of the hurt and suffering comes from self-affliction and through own self-choices that I think we're making, and might not even be where we're making them. And that's where the awareness comes to fruition, and you can start to make those changes necessary for you to have a breakthrough and also create the best life, the best you, and the best version of yourself. And that truly is what purpose and meaning is in life. Is I think God created you just to simply make you the best version of yourself. So a lot of people are like, well, I'm created to have this career, and my purpose in life is to be a pastor, and my purpose in life is to be a wife, and no, your purpose in life is to be the best you that you possibly can in the time that you're given. Because if you're the best you, think about the value that you're going to add to others naturally. So that's what this life is all about, energy. Giving the best energy out because you figured out inside how you can every day just be the best you that you can be. And it is a journey, and it's never going to end at a certain destination, but that's the beauty of what this life is. So guys, thanks so much for being on this call. We highly appreciate you, love you, and have a great rest of your night. Thanks so much.